What's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. And today, as I mentioned, we're gonna paint Avicii, the musician. He passed away a few days ago, if you haven't heard. And it's a really weird thing for me because I'm really familiar with his music. I've been listening to it for the past few years, and just because it's so catchy and so popular and so mainstream, but I didn't really know much about him as a person. I never really read about him too much. I just listened to the music, and now he passed away, and it's just so weird. He's 28, he was 28, which is my age, and whenever these things kind of happen, it always makes me think about my place in the world and the work that I do, and it gives me this sense of urgency to do what I need to do as fast as possible, because we never know, and especially when it's someone my age, and to think about all of the things that he managed to do, and so anyway, I don't want to get too emotional, but it's just a very interesting experience for me, and so what I decided to do is to work on this portrait of his, and just to see how it turns out. I will say that I hope I got the resemblance correctly. I think there are a few things to fix there, as you will soon see. But it's just going to be a time-lapse video of the entire process, really quick. And maybe in the near few weeks, I will post one that's a more wholesome narrated version. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to keep this one a relatively short time-lapse video. Okay, maybe I will narrate some of the process. I'm really not sure. I'm recording this before doing the editing work. So in any case, let's jump into the painting process.
Okay, so I'm starting here by mixing two pools of yellow and red. The yellow is Hansa Yellow Medium, and the red is Quinacridone Rose. And I'm just using these, which is similar, by the way, to magenta. It's not really red. And I'm just alternating between these two in order to create the first layer, the initial wash, which is basically just the skin tone or the underpainting on top of which I will layer on later on some shadows. Okay, and my only concern at this stage is avoiding the highlight and leaving whites where I should. Now at this stage, it's still really hard to see the quality of the painting, and it can be a big challenge to see the beauty that will soon to come in it. So you really need to push through this stage that's kind of maybe looking a bit bizarre, and to have a bit of faith that things will connect properly in the next few layers, and definitely not give up, because I used to give up many paintings for virtually no reason at all, and without knowing that I could definitely save them, quote unquote, in the future, though they didn't really require any saving. They were good. So now I'm going lower under the chin is where it's going to get really dark, and there I mix a really strong mixture of the reds and yellows, and for the clothing I add a bit of blue, which immediately, as you can see, neutralizes it and turns it into a more grayish purple. Okay, so just to create some differentiation. Next up, I want to mix some color for the hair, so that'll be my blue and red. And again, my focus here is not realistic colors. I'm not trying to imitate what I see. I just use the three colors as I want to. If I would want to nail the colors a little more realistically, I would mix more of the three together, and not just two of those. I would add a lot of yellow to this mix as well to make it a little grayer, a little more skin tone like. So my main goal with this is to set up the shadows, the slightly darker ones. That's probably like the mid values or something that's a little darker, and it will require a lot more darkening in the next few layers. Okay, simply because I find it still very challenging to nail everything correctly immediately. I find that it does take some time for me to do that, and so I just try and do my best and follow the the guidelines that I put earlier, and hopefully it all connects together well. But sometimes you do need a few layers, and you can see it looks really weird with the highlights and with the previous wash, and that's fine. All we're doing is adding another layer that adds slightly darker values. I'm trying to blend it where possible, but in many cases, in many areas, I missed the blending. Kind of missed it, not really missed it, but maybe I just deliberately didn't really think it's too important. You can see this near his right cheek that's to our left. It's just a very sharp transition. Now, I still haven't touched his left eye, and the reason why is because it's in a separate area, and so I'll use any break I can to make sure that I don't have to work super duper fast. Now I added some kind of a medium value in between the dark and the light from earlier because it felt, as I mentioned earlier, a little too abrupt. And finally getting his left eye in, covering everything because it's a little more shaded or well shaded, so it's a little more in the shadows, and yeah. Now for the hair, I start to introduce a bit yellow and blue to it, so that creates this mild gray-green, because there's still some red in it. And I just hold on to that color and use it for some shadows and for some other things. Next up, it's time to add the darker shadows. So I'm starting with the hair, starting from the top as well, and I'm really trying to read the reference and understand where a darker value is required. Okay, it's not required everywhere, and you want to make sure you avoid the areas where it isn't required, because you don't want to lose your highlights or miss some of the lighter parts that should be lighter. So I'm working really carefully. This is one of the most challenging, I think, parts of the painting process, simply because you really have to be on top of things. It's more similar to drawing, let's say, because everything you do has more impact, I guess. In those stages, some stages later on you can't really mess it up too much, but with this one you really have to be careful. And now you see how slowly but surely the shape of the face starts to come together. We're still in the bizarre, weird stage, but things do start to connect properly, and you start to get a feel of three-dimensionality. Now we have some heavy shadows under the chin. I think I went a little too heavy there, by the way, and I also think I went a little looser on this portrait, and not intentionally. So this is my kind of mess up, but that's fine. You learn from your mistakes. I think I just went too purple here, and not enough of the individual colors are seen. But that's all just a part of it. You can't really control all of these things. You basically interpret what you see the best you can, and then let it go. So now I'm putting the very darkest darks. This is as dark as this is gonna get, the mouth area. And notice how it immediately pops when compared to everything that's around it. And the reason is that it is significantly darker than everything else, but the eyes are going to be a little darker later on. And under the chin and the hair, it's all going to be of equal level of darkness. The shadows of the nostrils, under the nose, these areas are going to be as dark as the inside part of the mouth. Okay, so now it kind of looks like maybe even a dark lipstick or something weird, because it's significantly different from everything else. So now I mixed a bit of a gray for the clothes. I'm trying to differentiate the clothes and kind of move them to the background by simply using a grayer color. So the gray you see here is from all of the three colors, which are, by the way, I haven't mentioned, but hopefully I wrote it down somewhere. French Ultramarine, Quinacridone Rose, and Hansa Yellow Medium. I did mention these two, I remember. So I mixed the grays using all of the colors together. And that's the best way I find to do it. It's very harmonious. Near the end, I start to add a bit of burnt sienna, just maybe to vary things up a little bit or to neutralize the blue a little more easily, because burnt sienna has both yellow and red in it, so it immediately neutralizes the French Ultramarine. So now I'm having a bit of trouble actually with the nose, because this shadow is too abrupt at the bottom, but too abrupt at the top, but not abrupt enough at the bottom. So I kind of have to blend the top area, and sometimes you have to wing it. I didn't really. I could have done that a little better, but in the earlier stages, by the way. Now it's too late, so you just have to work with what you got. So in any case, yeah, it's a bit sketchy, a bit rough, a bit messy, I would even say, but that's fine. That's part of it. And it's been a while since I did a portrait, and every painting is just a learning experience. You know, every time people ask me about watercolor painting, mainly on Instagram, I get a lot of questions about being scared to begin or not seeing improvement. And I always say it's just so much trial and error and so much experimentation. You know, I've been at it for maybe 2.5, almost 3 years now. Well, maybe closer, maybe 2.5 years. And I still learn every single day tons of new things. And it's not even, I can't even say what I learned, but I just feel like, oh, okay, so that's a better way of doing that. And I just feel it. You know, I can't really say I learned X, Y, Z. You know, sometimes I can, but not all the time. And it's really a weird and awkward learning process, and yeah, this is just one of those things. Hopefully my next portrait is going to be more on point. I actually have a few portraits in the making that this one was really quick. I decided to do it and then I just did it, but I have a few portraits that I plan on working on much more carefully and more slowly, and so hopefully I can bring the vision of those portraits more to life and more being more careful, I guess. So I have a few ones in the making. Now, this was too dark, so I lifted it back up with a tissue. The teeth should stay pretty light. So in any case, I have a few portraits that are really, I plan on making really sharp and interesting and on point. So hopefully they'll come to fruition soon. So now I'm adding some texture to the shirt. His shirt actually has thin stripes there, so I wanted to get that in. And finally, background. And I use for the background yellow and a bit of red just to negate the purple or the deep. I guess purple, because yellow is the opposite on the color wheel. And you will soon see the final result. I'm just lifting a bit here and there, and you will soon see the final result. And I hope you enjoyed this process. Let's wrap up.
Okay, so I'm done here, and let me show you the final result. We're gonna zoom in just a moment. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. It's a bit hard for me to see if I got the similarities and the resemblance correctly, but when I look at the reference, I do see that I was pretty accurate. If I just look at it objectively, if I look at the shadows, the lights, it does seem like I was quite accurate in that sense, so hopefully the resemblance does come through. Let me zoom in so we can see some more of the details. Okay, so here we go, top to bottom. As always, I started from the top. You can see here a bit of a spot, kind of a pink spot. I like when that happens spontaneously. You just put the paint in and then you get these varieties. You can see a lot of pink here as well. Let me hold it up to the camera. And a lot of interesting colors, I think, are coming through. I'm really pleased with that bottom part as well. I think the shadow looks real in many aspects, and it does convey the feeling. The background was really I wouldn't say an afterthought, but just an idea I got when I finished with this, with the face, and I decided to put a background. And because there's a lot of purple in here, a lot of purple and magenta, I decided to go with a yellow one that's kind of opposing on the color wheel, so a bit of yellow and a bit of the Quinacridone Rose. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed this process, and let's wrap up this video. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed watching this painting process and maybe learned something new. All of the materials are going to be listed down in the description box as always, okay? And I really hope I can find the middle ground of showing the process but not showing it too much, and to give you enough of an idea how I do it without maybe making a video of 2 hours, being 2 hours long. So in any case, I hope that was a good balance. Let me know in a comment below what you think about time-lapse videos, what you think about mid-time-lapse videos, maybe like 10 minutes, and what you think about the longer tutorials, 45 minutes. I do know a lot of people prefer those, and I do know a lot of people prefer the others. I know there's an audience for both. So in any case, this is it. Thank you so much. Check out the links below as well to my podcast, to my beginner's drawing course, to my Patreon page, anything else that may interest you. Definitely my podcast if you're interested in listening to me talk in a more elaborate manner on some of the topics that relate to art and creativity and the business of art and even personal productivity and just vlogging and telling you about what I'm going through and what I'm learning and my insights as I go through them. Okay? So, Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in another vid real soon. And until then, take care.